Welcome to this week's Meet the Democrats. Meet the Democrats is where we take a look at national, state, and local news through a Democratic perspective. On this week's show, we're going to continue our series called On the Ballot. On the Ballot is where we sit down with local candidates that are vying for your vote. This week, we are honored to be able to sit down with State Senator Francis Heitmeier. Heitmeier is actually seeking the job of Secretary of State, and we're going to sit down and find out why it's so important for us to have someone of credibility in that position. Then we're going to sneak into a meeting here in Lafayette with Mike Stagg. Mike Stagg recently sat down with a group and was able to give a speech and also answer some of their questions. We'll have more of that in his segment. But first, as always, this week in the news. Senator Ted Stevens, oh boy, this guy's a real piece of work. Mostly known for his incredible Hulk ties. That's right. Whenever he's having a day where he needs to be pumped up and hulkish, he wears an incredible Hulk tie to the floor of the Senate, where he will be fighting his fights. Right now, sticking in his crawl is he's against net neutrality. He believes that we should be able to completely change how the Internet is functioning right now. It's funny, if you ever listen to any of his speeches, it doesn't seem to me that the man even understands what the Internet is. However, as reported in Common Dreams this past week, Stevens is trying to line up votes for the so-called Advanced Telecommunications and Opportunities Reform Act. Dang, that's a mouthful. But as usual, if it sounds good and it has a lot of buzzwords, it usually does the exact opposite of what it says it's going to do. And make no mistake, this does just that. This current incarnation, as well as its predecessors, do nothing to help regular folks. Instead, these all help these huge corporations. If this bill passes, the Internet as we know it would basically die, a very quick death, actually. Sites like YouTube, Blogger, MySpace, and even your local news channels that you go to their websites will be forced to pay tens of thousands of dollars to middlemen, basically, in order to get their content delivered unrestricted to people on these individual networks. The same network like you would connect at your home or your office. These folks would have to pay these larger fees. Where are they going to get the money? They're going to have to increase your rates. Remember the days of going and clicking on a video online and having to wait about 2 minutes and then 5 seconds of the video would play, and then you'd wait another 2 minutes and another 5 seconds would play? Well, those days could be coming back pretty darn quick, no matter how fast you connect to the Internet, if these guys have their way. We definitely want you to call your elected officials and demand that they save the Internet, vote no on this bill, and ask them to sign on to protect net neutrality. Think of it this way. This is the best analogy I could come up with as I was thinking about this. Think of it this way. You right now get your water probably from your municipal government, okay? And those folks get you the water through the line and you pay your water bill every month. Well, imagine now if the individuals who actually manufactured the pipes to get that water to your house decided they were going to start charging you as well on top of, or charging the city on top of what they're already charging them when they buy the pipes in the first place. This is ridiculous, and these costs would definitely be passed on to the end user. You don't want your rates to increase. We need to make sure we preserve the Internet as it is. Richard Armitage and the Plain Gate, he could possibly be the Plain Gate deep throat that we've been hearing so much about. Then Deputy Secretary of State Richard Armitage met with Washington Post reporter Bob Woodward in mid-June of 2003. This is the same time that this reporter testified that the administration official told him about the CIA operative named Valerie Plame. Armitage has notably close ties with this administration, and this same administration is railing against reporters for reporting on the NSA wiretapping, for basically, as they call it, leaking this information. Wiretapping that this administration has, by the way, confirmed prior to this leak, supposedly. However, they could care less who leaked the name of Valerie Plame because it supposedly helped them improve their case. This two-sided coin here doesn't seem to be working out too well for them, and the chickens are going to come home to roost. Special Prosecutor Fitzgerald is holding on to an indictment right now. It's been sealed, and hopefully pretty soon we're going to be hearing what his findings are. Spike Lee just premiered his new film, When the Levees Broke. This is an actual four-part, or seen in 4 acts, that it has debuted on HBO just this past week. It will be rerunning more than a few times, and you'll be able to catch it, hopefully. Perhaps this is the best 4 hours that I've spent in at least the last several months. Spike Lee takes a hard look into before, during, and after Katrina from the lives of real people and how they were affected. One thing is for sure, this film clearly illustrates the complete and total failure of our federal government. Perhaps most poignant in this film was the reality that we are currently in the middle of the hurricane season, and guess what? We are no better off prepared than we were before. FEMA is no better off than it was last year at this time, and I guess we're going to be having to fend for ourselves if anything is going to come and threaten Lafayette. If you visit Cameron Parish today, you'll see most of the same things that you would in New Orleans. Little has been done while we're waiting on federal red tape to be able to get in there and clean it up. This time, though, that our Republican congressman complains that he was blindsided by FEMA. However, it's important for us to remember that that same week that he claimed to have been blindsided, he spent the entire week out campaigning for student loan forgiveness. For students in his district, you ask? Nope. For hurricane-impacted students, maybe? Nope, not quite. For low-income people? Not a chance, not with this guy. For teachers? Yeah, right, not even close. For heart surgeons? This guy wanted to give student loan forgiveness to heart surgeons. Arguably the people who have the most potential of income-earning opportunities in this country, and he wants to forgive their student loans. Now, Bustani is often proud to claim in the newspaper articles, and seldom whenever we see him possibly showing up on TV for 5 seconds here or there, that he is doing the work of the people of the 7th District. Well, I ask you, Acadiana, was he doing the work for us when he was out campaigning for student loan forgiveness for heart surgeons? Meanwhile, FEMA was making this huge decision that was going to impact our district. It seems to me that if the congressman was really concerned about this, he would have had his new office located inside of FEMA, and he would have been camped out there until he got the results. But no, he was out working on other things. Unbelievable. I think it might be time for a change. Moving forward, Senator Landrieu announces a month-long commemoration for Katrina and Rita. That's right. A series of events commemorating the first anniversaries of Hurricanes Rita and Katrina, beginning with Hope and Recovery Tour of the coastal parishes from August 24th through the 29th. Then it's going to continue to a multi-state coastal issues summit in southwest Louisiana on September's 23rd and 24th. August 24th, Senator Landrieu will visit St. Bernard Parish with Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid of Nevada. Returning to southeast Louisiana on August 29th, the first anniversary of Katrina. This will culminate with a multi-state coastal summit on September 23rd and 24th, as I mentioned earlier. Coastal Summit will examine environmental, economic, and hurricane protection issues affecting the entire Gulf Coast, and it will be held in Cameron Parish and in Lake Charles. The senator said, while commemorating these anniversaries of Katrina and Rita, I want to bring a message of hope and recovery to the people of coastal Louisiana, from Cameron to Chalmette, Lake Charles to Grand Isle, Lafitte to Slidell, Houma to New Orleans, Senator Landrieu said. I want to exchange ideas about how we look to our future and move our state forward. Congratulations, Senator, especially on all of the hard work that you've done, and hopefully we'll be able to actually realize this hard work and it will pay off so that we can start getting our fair share of the royalties that are being earned off of our coast. John McCain, the new flip-flopper-in-chief. That's right, McCain, while campaigning in Ohio for incumbent Mike DeWine, who is facing a very difficult uphill battle against Sherrod Brown. McCain actually faults the administration on Iraq, and in many cases, actually. This is coming from a man who has been seen buddying up to the president in recent months after the passage of the anti-torture bill that McCain put forward. I suspect, though, that someone probably just informed the senator that when President Bush signed his law into effect, that there was a very thick signing statement attached to that bill. Basically, the president saying that this is a nice bill and all, but it obviously doesn't apply to me, so I'm not going to follow it. McCain and most Republicans are trying to have it both ways. They play up to the president in very few pockets of the country that actually still support the president and his failed policy and his failed administration. However, when they're in the mainstream America, they usually tend to start slapping him around a little bit. So I'd like to give the first ever annual award of Flip-Flopper-in-Chief to Senator John McCain. Lastly, the Dixie Chicks documentary, Shut Up and Sing, has actually been picked up for worldwide distribution by Weinstein Company. This release is tentatively scheduled for this fall. What else is happening this fall? Oh yeah, elections. Good, good. It chronicles the death threats and what it's like for this popular group, what they had to face after actually publicly speaking out and disagreeing with the president. I personally can't wait to see this. And while I'm not a huge country fan, I, like many others of my friends, rushed out to buy their new CD to be able to support this group that's quite amazing for their stance. Anyhow, in their documentary, in other documentary news, An Inconvenient Truth was actually playing here in Lafayette, but if you blinked, you probably missed it. It was only here for a week at the Grand. However, we hope that we can actually bring it back here if you weren't able to see it. It was quite a powerful movie. And that is our Democratic news for August 28, 2006. We'd like to thank you for watching us here on Blue Mondays, but we'd also like to welcome all of our new surrounding parishes that are now getting our channels, AOC on Channel 15. Blue Mondays, so you all know, is available every single Monday night at 9 p.m. here on AOC Channel 15. This is where we take a look at progressive news, issues, and talk every single Monday night, bringing you an alternative to all the claptrap that we hear going on in mainstream media. Also, on our channel here, on our sister channel, AOC Channel 16, every single day, Monday through Friday, you'll be able to check out Democracy Now! That is on at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Democracy Now! And more information can be found at democracynow.org. This is a great informational news program that comes to you unembedded, and it gives you real journalism without corporate media or corporate sponsorship interests taken into account. Lastly, and as always, we'd like to invite you to check out our website, LafayetteDemocrats.org. We have a great deal of information, not just for folks here in Lafayette, but for folks throughout Acadiana. We also have a link on there that will take you over to our blog space. We have local bloggers that are on there, and if you're interested in contributing, you should definitely let us know. And last, but most certainly not least, make sure that you log on to theadvertiser.com every single Tuesday to check out my column that appears every Tuesday on the Advertiser's website called The Left Blog, where you'll get to see my thoughts and opinions of whatever is going on in our state and country. With that, we'll be right back.
We make a pledge, we keep our word. When America works, America prospers, so my economic security plan can be summed up in one word: jobs. The No Child Left Behind Act is opening the door of opportunity to all of America's children. Our budget will run a deficit that will be small and short-term. We should and must provide the best care for anybody who's willing to put their life in harm's way. We make a pledge, we mean it. We keep our word. We keep our word.
The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
And we are back. Next up, we are going to sit down for our next segment, which is called On the Ballot. On the Ballot is where we sit down with local candidates vying for your vote. This week, I was able to sit down with Senator Heitmeier, and he's vying for your vote for Secretary of State. Here's what the senator had to say. Senator Heitmeier, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Very glad to have you to the show. So tell me here, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're not a senator from this side of the state, so why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, I'd be happy to. I'm Senator Heitmeier, Francis Heitmeier from Algiers, Louisiana. I've been in the Senate since 1992. Actually started out in politics in 1978 as an Orleans Parish Democratic committeeman. Then I ran for the House of Representatives. I went to the House in 1984, served 2 terms there, and now I'm serving presently in the Senate. In the Senate, I've chaired the retirement committees, I've chaired transportation committees, and now I chair the Finance Committee, which means every dollar spent in the state of Louisiana has to come through our committee. That's including the money for recovery. So right now we're very, very busy trying to rebuild Louisiana from the storms, trying to get everything back, balancing the budget, and making sure we keep our state moving forward.
Understandably. Well, then you're probably very familiar and work closely with a good friend of our show, Senator Butch Gautreaux. He's been on our show a few times.
Absolutely. Butch is one of the members of our committee.
That's great.
Butch does a great job, works real hard for his constituency, and it's a pleasure to work with him.
He's a real good guy. Yeah, we've had him on the show a few times. So, Secretary of State, boy, man, what brought you to the decision of running for this job?
Well, Stephen, actually, Fox McKithen had offered me the top job a couple of years back. Mm-hmm. And I looked at it, and I've always been interested in elections as an early kid. I mean, my parents were poll commissioners, and me being the firstborn, I would be woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the Berman gym where they were commissioners at and sit there till it was time to go to school. And they would drop me off at school. So, I mean, from an early age, the election process has been a big interest to me and my family. So we were looking at running, gearing up. After Fox offered us the job, we thanked him, but it just wasn't the time to take the top spot over there. So with the untimely accident of Mr. McKithen, we started looking at it, and then the storms came. And this put everything on hold. We had to get our lives back together. My parents are still alive and live a block away, and we had to work on their houses and my kids' house. We had a lot to do because of the storm. We're on our way back, a lot of people on our way back, and then the session came, and a lot of people started asking me about running. So we need somebody with your experience and your expertise to take that job, to help us in Louisiana, because we need somebody who's going to be fair and going to make sure everybody's right to vote is protected. And I'm that guy. So we looked at it, we talked with people were encouraging, they were calling me, so then we decided to hire a pollster. The results of the poll came back very encouraging. And we started putting it together, and now we're some 40 days away from the election.
That's right. That's right. Boy, the clock is sure ticking on that. And, you know, I'm incredibly nervous about this. I mean, we've heard headlines across the country of secretaries of state not necessarily doing the right thing. I mean, we've had some secretaries of state that are also serving as the chairman of the election committee of, a candidate for president. It makes it very difficult to have the sense that my vote is going to count just as much as the next guy when that kind of stuff is going on. What are your thoughts?
Well, we don't need any shenanigans in the Secretary of State's office at all. I mean, the Secretary of State, as you know, is in charge of elections. He or she, because there's a female in the race here, because there's 6 of us in the race, but he or she is also in charge of corporations. Right. Every business that comes to our state has to go through the Secretary of State's office. He or she is also responsible for museums around the state and also the historian for the state of Louisiana. Right. But the main focus, the main thing right now is elections. And we have to make sure that whoever the Secretary of State is, and hopefully it'll be me, supports the National Association of Secretary of States and be opposed to any federalization of elections. I mean, Tip O'Neill said all politics are local. Yeah. Well, I believe all elections are local. Absolutely. And we have to make sure you do not federalize the elections and take them out of Washington and take it from the states. We have to support the states having the ability to run the elections all over the country. And that's what the National Association of Secretary of State's stance is right now, and I firmly support that.
Well, you know what? I think that's really interesting. I'd like to touch on that a little bit more. The federalization, and you know what, I haven't heard a lot about that, but it really, as soon as we started talking about that, I started shaking in my shoes. You know, why would someone want to take that right away? I mean, the further you distance that accountability, the harder it is to hold anyone accountable. I mean, right now we're trying to hold people accountable for the debacle that was Katrina and Rita, and we can't seem to put our finger on anybody. If we did elections that way,
and you're exactly right. And the debacle with Katrina and Rita, when you get down to it, it was the federal government. It was who had design flaws in their flood walls, in their levees. And then if you would federalize elections, it would be the same thing again. It would go back to Washington, and you would have Washington running your local elections. You would have no input and no accountability. And there are people who are trying to push this. There are people from Washington coming down who are campaigning in our state right now, and that's what they want to do. They want to federalize elections, and we adamantly oppose to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because I don't even know how that would work. I mean, logistically or anything. It makes me very nervous. You know, we had a local ballot initiative a little bit over a year ago, and we passed the fiber to the home issue. And during that time, you know, we were impressed because we really worked the vote. You know, the good old grassroots, get out the vote efforts. And I would be worried about that. I mean, every time we get around to midterm elections and big national elections, we're always faced with our opposition side that wants to say that they want to protect the vote. But yet it seems like sometimes they want to depress the vote. When it comes down to it, every vote matters, right?
Every vote counts. That's everybody's God-given right to vote, and we have to make sure that we work as hard as we can to preserve that for people, because that's what you have. You have the right to vote. And to suppress that, I think, is horrible. And I have gave speeches all over the state and have a lot more of the state to cover, but this is the most precious thing you have, and we have to protect it.
You're absolutely right. So with the situation that we find ourselves in now, I mean, you're obviously intimately aware with the struggles to try and bring New Orleans back, and now with your traveling of the state, now we're trying to bring Cameron Parish back. What about those individuals who have been displaced and preserving their right to vote?
And we have worked on that through the legislature. We have put steps in to make it easier for them to vote through early voting, through fax voting. This election coming up on the 30th would be the first time that Cameron Parish will be included, and also St. Bernard and Plaquemine, where you also had a lot of devastation going on from the storms. We are short of commissioners in all these places now. We, meaning the state of Louisiana, short of commissioners. We're working on that diligently. The clerk's office in New Orleans is having classes trying to get commissioners certified so they can work elections. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on right now to preserve everybody's right to vote. If you start talking about moving that to Washington, they can put so many precincts in one place. They can send not enough voting machines. There's too many things that can happen. You need local accountability, local involvement, and local participation to make sure this thing is right. And that's why this is one of our planks in our platform that we adamantly oppose any federalization.
That's so good to hear. That's so good to hear. You know, with every time it's time to go to the ballot box, we have reports coming in from, and these new machines that we have now, we just had the first experience of going and voting on them for some local millage issues and such, and now we're coming up for the September 30th election voting on these new machines. What are your general thoughts on these new machines? Are they to be trusted? I know a lot of our folks are a little bit weary of them. They're so used to those old big bad Bessies, you know, in there to go and pull their lever. What are your thoughts on the new machines?
We in South Louisiana have actually been voting on these machines for a while. Right now, we have the rest of the state covered with the electronic voting machines. And I really have a lot of confidence in them. I mean, it's the cutting edge of technology. And I mean, you have to understand, the Secretary of State's office here in Louisiana, people come from other states to come into our state to see how we do it, to look at the machines, because we are so far advanced. We are the envy of the country in elections in Louisiana. People from California were in here not too long ago. Secretary Ada was telling me that. They want to see how we do it. These machines here are verified in triplicate. There are a paper trail in it. I mean, I have talked to them. They test every machine before they go out to the precincts. We have some 4,000 voting machines 4,000 precincts. We have some 10,000 voting machines in the state of Louisiana. So prior to every election, every machine is tested, it is verified to make sure that it's registering correctly, it's the right person is getting the right vote, and then it goes off to the field for election day. So we have a lot of confidence in the machines. I mean, but we're always looking for new technology, and I'm going to always be looking to improve it. I think we have to build on the office of Secretary of State. I think Fox McKithen did a great job, and I think Al Ader's done a great job, and we want to enhance that and build on it.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. When it comes down to it, we have a very serious election here on September 30th. I am very nervous about this. I had just was telling you before we started the tape today that I was up in Chicago attending the DNC meeting, and there's a lot of focus throughout the country on secretaries of state, and it's a job that I think for many years was kind of overlooked, but the importance now is being really focused on. And I guess I can't stress enough to individuals in our viewing audience, and I think you agree, that preserving individuals' rights to get out there and make sure that their voice is heard. And this is not trying to say anything other than every person has that right to vote, and their one vote matters, and they should all count, no matter what and who they are, no matter if they're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or who cares. You got to get out there and participate. You don't have any right to complain if you don't. So anyhow, I can go off on my tirades. Tell me a little bit more about the Secretary of State's office. You mentioned corporations having to file with you. Basically, what does that mean? If I'm a corporation, I have to tell you that I'm doing business in our state? You have to come.
You have to give us your list of officers, everybody who's going to be involved with your company, and then you have to make your filings with the Secretary of State's office. Then we will enhance, in fact, license you, give you your license to do business in the state of Louisiana. Everyone who, doctors, lawyers, I mean, the Secretary of State's office is a huge office, and what has happened, people are starting to realize how important they are all across the nation, right, especially with economic development, with businesses. I think we can take this office, tie it into the economic development arm in the governor's office, have a department set up to where we enhance businesses to come in. We help them. We make it easier for them. I get calls all the time now from people from out of state who want to come in, do business, construction business, do business in Louisiana because of the recovery, and they don't know where to go. Right. So instead of just saying, just go to the website and you can do it, which the website is one way to do it, we kind of walk them through the process, get them in touch with the people over at the Secretary of State's office so they're talking to a warm body. And I think that's what we need to do with the Secretary of State's office. Take all of those, work it together for economic development to make it part of the recovery. Absolutely. Because we are building Louisiana back. We coming back. Absolutely.
That's so good to hear. That's so good to hear. What other thoughts do you have for this area? I know that we're already talking with you and others of your staff to make sure that we get you back here frequently. I know that you've got a lot of requests for your time because we definitely want to get to know you more. But what other thoughts do you have to share with Acadiana?
Well, we also want to enhance the office. We want to build on it. In other words, we're also looking at the new technologies that's coming out with electronic voting books, to where when you come and you vote, instead of signing the old pieces of paper and things like that. I mean, we want to build this office and make sure it continues being the envy of the country. And we know we can and we will. I've talked with Al Ader. He's going to stay on as long as he wants and be the top assistant for us if I'm elected. So we're going to keep the staff that's there working in place. We're going to make sure that we have protected everyone's right to vote, not just a select few, but everybody. And that's one of the main things that we have. I will come back to Acadiana as many times as you want. We will work closely with the clerks and the register of voters on a day-to-day basis. We have people in the offices that do that. I mean, so it is a lot bigger office than people realize. You are third in line. You have the governor, lieutenant governor, and then Secretary of State. So for whatever reason, if both people are out of town, then the Secretary of State is acting governor for that day or for whatever period of time it is. So with that, with the debacle you've seen in other states with elections because of the Secretary of State, that's what's making it so important all across the country, to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's one of the things that we will set up to do. Make sure it doesn't happen, make sure we enhance the office, and that we keep it running efficiently, and make sure everybody's right to vote is protected, and fight any form of federalization with elections that we can fight.
Senator Heitmeier, we greatly thank you for coming to Lafayette and talk to us. The one thing is definitely clear. If you want to make sure and ensure that your vote counts and that it's truly counted, we need to make sure that we have someone of credibility in this position of Secretary of State. Take the time, look at the candidates. The only Democratic candidate on the ballot is Senator Heitmeier. We strongly recommend that you give your support to him. Log on to voteheitmeier.com. You can get more information, or as always, check out LafayetteDemocrats.org. You'll be able to get the information there.
Tick, 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 tick. Massive heat waves. Heat waves. Tick. Severe droughts. Tick, 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 tick. Devastating hurricanes. Tick, 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 tick. Our future is up to you. Go to fightglobalwarming.com while there's still time.
In the last century, Americans organized as our nation moved from a farm past to a factory present. Faced with gaping wealth disparities, corruption of our political process, destruction of nature, and a workforce unprepared for a changing economy, these leaders formed a new vision for democracy. Today we again see the dawn of a new era, from an assembly line past to an interconnected information future. And we must again rebuild our democratic community, one that stands for a world-class education, an economy that is both healthy and fair, a thriving natural environment, healthy people with accessible health care, a secure nation with international credibility, and working elections and engaged citizens that make all of this possible. Not bigger government, not smaller government, but better government. Not left, not right, but forward. The Democratic Party, America's party.
Our next segment, we actually follow Mike Stagg on the campaign trail. Mike sat down with a group this week and was able to talk to them about his idea of the future and what it could look like with him in the position of congressman for the 7th Congressional District. It was earlier reported to us that Congressman Bustani would be in attendance as well. However, according to the congressman, there were some scheduling errors that prevented him from attending. I don't know if I'm buying that, but here's what happened at the meeting with Mike Stagg.
My name is Mike Stagg. I'm a native of Eunice. I'm a resident of Lafayette. I'm 54 years old. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an IT consultant, and I'm a Democrat, and I'm a candidate for Congress. I got into this race for two reasons. First being, I'm concerned about the future of this country. I think there are some serious problems in this country that are fairly recent, very intense. And the other reason I got into this race is that I believe in you. I think the first thing you'll notice, I think there's a general consensus that there's something wrong in this country. And I think one of the critical things that's wrong is that in Washington, in Baton Rouge, and a lot of places, big money drowns out the voices of ordinary people. We have an intelligent and a creative populace, but what happens in Washington, in particular, I'm running for Congress, I'm going to talk about Washington. What happens in Washington is that big money drowns out your voice. And we've seen this time and time again. And in the past 5 years, the number of lobbyists in Washington has doubled. And what we've seen is that lobbyists don't influence legislation, they write legislation. And what happens is that legislation reflects the interests of the people they represent and not the people that our Congress represents. We have issues in this country right now. We have gas at $3 a gallon, or roughly. I was in Chicago last week. Gas is $3.39 a gallon. Try that on. Health care is unaffordable for many. We have a prescription drug program that ultimately will break seniors. The pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies will do well, but seniors are not going to be able to deal with the cost of those drugs, particularly when they hit that magic donut period where you're on your own for about $3,000 of drugs. We're at war in the Middle East. With who? We're not quite sure. There's supposed to be a war on terror, but we're in Iraq. And what we have succeeded in doing in Iraq is converting Iraq into a center for international terrorism. We strengthened Iran in the process, destabilized Israel, driven up the price of oil, and I think ruined the reputation of this country in the eyes of the world. You know, a couple of decades ago, Ronald Reagan talked about America being the shining city on the hill. What's happened in the last couple of years is that the shining city on the hill has been replaced by the hooded man on a box in Abu Ghraib prison. That is the image of America in the world. That is the image of America that has resulted from an administration that said it was a war on terror and went to war in Iraq. The people who attacked us on September 11, 2001 are still loose in the world, and we're not chasing them. Instead, we went to Iraq. We have 140,000 troops there. The Army said that wasn't enough to do the job. We went anyway. We are on the verge of a civil war in Iraq. It will have cost this country by the end of 2008 $1 trillion. That's not billion, that's trillion. That's $1,000 billion. We're spending $8 billion a month in Iraq. None of the reasons that we went there still apply, and yet we're still there. We have got to get control of this country again. The administration has shredded international agreements, they shredded the Constitution, they've violated laws, all in the name of supposedly protecting us, but they won't tell us what they're protecting us against. We have to get control of this country again. One of the reasons I'm running for Congress is that we have to restore constitutional order in this country. A lot of you in here are veterans. I've talked to some of you before the meeting. You're veterans. Some of you fought in World War II. Some of you fought in other wars. I don't think anybody fought to preserve a monarchy. We fought to preserve a way of life here that is sometimes inefficient, but ultimately prevails. It's sometimes sloppy, but it has proven itself time and again the best system of government in the world. And that system operates on a concept of checks and balances. We don't have a king. We have a system of checks and balances between a legislative branch, an executive branch, and the courts. And it does us no good to destroy our system. We cannot destroy our system and protect it at the same time. I have a flag on my lapel. A lot of people have flags on their lapel. We all love this country. But what this election is about is the future of this country. I'm not running for dog catcher. I don't want to talk about those kind of issues. I want to talk about the issues that are in front of the country today, because that's the stakes that we face. We have to restore constitutional balance in this country. We have to preserve the middle class in this country. You know, people can't afford health care anymore. We have had each year over the past 6 years 1 million new people a year that can't afford insurance. There was a study that came out last month by the Commonwealth Group, in which it showed that concern over the cost of health care has reached into the middle class. Now, some of the people in Congress will tell you they're in the middle class. Well, if you make $160,000 a year, you're not in the middle class. You're in the upper class. If you make $160,000 a year and you have other outside income, you're in the top 1% of people in the country. And I think part of the problem that we have in Congress right now is that the members of Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate, cannot relate to the challenges and concerns that ordinary people face. We have congressmen make $161,000 a year and just gave themselves a $3,000 raise, but the minimum wage hadn't been raised since 1996. You know, there was a vote in the House and the Senate recently to raise the minimum wage, but only if they gave tax breaks to the wealthy again. You know, if you raise the minimum wage, what's going to happen is you're going to stimulate economic activity, because if you make the minimum wage right now and you work 40 hours a week, which the total income you make in a year is $10,700. $10,700 a year. So you give these people a raise, they will spend that money, it will stimulate economic activity. And it doesn't eliminate jobs. There have been studies done in the states that have raised the minimum wage in Wisconsin, New Mexico, Arizona. It's stimulated economic activity. There hasn't been a loss of jobs. But somebody has to look out for middle Americans. You know, we're on this mission supposedly to do nation building in Iraq. Well, I say nation building starts at home. We're coming up with some anniversaries here. August 29th, Katrina hit New Orleans and Louisiana and Mississippi Gulf Coast. A month later, Rita hit southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas. You know, the anniversary of Katrina is prompting a lot of stories in the press and the movies and a lot of attention. But, you know, there's a thing in southwest Louisiana, in the Lake Charles area, Cameron, that area, that they call Rita amnesia, because they've been forgotten. And what's been forgotten about southwest Louisiana is that as bad as FEMA was in New Orleans, that were every bit as bad as Southwest Louisiana. Part of that goes, I believe, to the philosophy behind the people who are running the government. The emphasis in response to Katrina and Rita was never on the victims. It was to be able to give away no-bid contracts to Halliburton, to the Shaw Group, to Bechtel, to companies like that. How do we know that's their pattern? Because they did the same thing in Iraq. And they've just done the same thing again with FEMA in preparation for this storm season. No-bid contracts again to the same companies. You know, government is supposed to work. Government is a contract between the people and those who govern. And what we have, apparently, is a philosophy of government that contracts are for suckers. International treaties, we don't abide by them anymore. We got out of the arms control agreement. It's not for us. We don't want to be held to the Geneva Convention. Social Security, we want to blow that contract. If a company wants to get out of the pension plan, just go to bankruptcy court. No problem. We're for that. The government will let you do that. Who's looking out for the interests of ordinary Americans? Not the government. And that's got to change. That's the government's job. In a system where you have large concentrations of money, you know, one of the fundamental roles of government has been to act as a counterbalance to the large interests at play in the country. Big business, international corporations, those kind of things. What we have now is the government has sided with those interests against us, and we're seeing the results now. So I think this is a critical time in our country. And I think that if we're going to get accountability, if we're going to get the kind of scrutiny, you know, the government used to have, I mean, you know, there used to be actual investigations with what the executive branch was doing, which we don't see now. But if we're going to see Congress reassert its authority, we're going to have to change who controls the Congress. Because what we have is a rubber stamp Republican Congress that will not investigate the administration, that will not question their policies, and will not demand accountability. We now have some Republicans in the Congress, Senator Chuck Hagel, a Vietnam veteran, saying that the country's lost its way in Iraq, that Iraq is the new Vietnam. Where are the hearings? Where's the investigation? Where's the accountability? 2,600 Americans have died in Iraq. 20,000 have been wounded. 50,000 Iraqi civilians have been killed. And are we any closer to having stability there now? No, actually, the Joint Chiefs of Staff announced this week that their figures show that attacks on American troops are higher now than they were prior to the death of that guy Zarqawi. Tom Friedman, a columnist in the New York Times, a conservative columnist, he usually writes about business and foreign affairs. He's a staunch defender of Israel. Said last week that if the administration really believed their own rhetoric about the war in Iraq, why didn't they commit the resources to do it right? We have an obligation as citizens to demand accountability from our government. The way we do that is through elections. And you know, I got into this race a little bit late, although I started looking at it last year. And the reason I started looking at it was that I was following the money. You know, there's a lot of corruption in the Congress. There are a lot of investigations going on, both sides of the aisle. It's Democrats and Republicans. You know, Bill Jefferson over in New Orleans is caught in some kind of bribery scandal, apparently. A number of congressmen have resigned. Tom DeLay resigned. Bob Ney is not going to run for re-election, powerful Republican. But, you know, when it costs a congressman $3 million, $2 or $3 million to run for election every 2 years, that puts a lot of pressure on them to raise that kind of money. So they turn to PACs. PACs can give money in pretty big chunks. And as a result, that money comes with strings attached. And the strings that are attached are things that we want riders and bills. We want earmarks. We want special projects. Oh, we want to write the legislation. And that stuff happens. And what has happened as a result is that's how we've had this separation between the interests of the people and the interests of government. And so when I got into this race, I decided I couldn't take PAC money because I couldn't say, oh, my PAC money is good, but his PAC money is bad. I think we have to get the big money out of the political system. We have to throw the money changers out of the temple. And that means getting PACs out of the election process, particularly in the election of the House, where you have to run every 2 years. It's just too much pressure. It's too tempting, and campaigns are too expensive otherwise. I mean, there's legislation in the Congress to deal with that now, has been for a while. You know, we award licenses for TV and radio. There's no public interest duty anymore. We could require that they give a block of time that could be used within a 90-day window, a 60-day window, that would enable people to run campaigns based on ideas rather than how much money you raise. Because that's, again, I believe that is the separating issue. That is where we started to lose it, where money came to dominate our politics. And so I'll give you just a handful of issues that I'm running on besides this restoration of government accountability. Raise the minimum wage. Health care is a fundamental right for every American. And we are the only industrialized nation in the world that does not have a national single-payer form of health care. We need to have that. We've tried that since Harry Truman. We need to deliver on that now. It's driving companies out of business because they can't afford their health care benefits and they can't afford their pension benefits. And we cannot succeed in the world at the cost of American workers and their families living in third world conditions. So we need to have national health care, and I believe we can get it with the new Congress. We need to focus on energy independence. You know, the founding fathers of this country knew a thing or two. And after the Constitutional Convention, someone asked Bill Franklin, "What have you got?" He says, "A republic if you can keep it." The founding fathers knew that we should stay out of foreign entanglements. And what happens right now? We get 60% of our oil from foreign countries. We get oil from places like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq when they used to produce oil, Nigeria, Venezuela. We need to declare energy independence. It's been done in Brazil. They use biofuels. They use sugarcane. They use rice. Oh, we grow that here, don't we? Committing ourselves to energy independence would be a great economic boon for our district and the farmers in our area and our economies. It would be good for the environment. There might be something to this global warming thing with these storms, maybe, huh? And it would be good for American foreign policy because it could break our dependence on these regimes and these regions that do nothing but cause us trouble. So energy independence is something that we have to commit to. The other thing is that we have to recognize that security comes in all kinds of different forms, not just at the barrel of a gun. And the best way that we can provide security for Americans is provide for a strong economy, a healthy environment, and good quality education for our children and a good future for them. And that's going to have to come out of changing the policies we have now, a focus on the actual interests of people, a pushing of the corporate interests to the background a little bit, and let us return our focus to what is in the interest of our people, and restore your voice to the process. And that's my commitment to you. I ask for your voted support, and I'll be happy to take your questions.
If you would be elected, what would you do with the situation you're talking about in Iraq today?
We have to recognize that we are now a significant part of the problem rather than part of the solution. Whatever our intentions were when we went there, we have so bungled the operation that I don't think our military can serve a useful role. We took down Saddam Hussein's regime. We succeeded on that. That was a military objective. I think that we're about to be caught in the middle of a civil war there. So I think we need to start removing our troops. And we need to call on the international community to step up and say, you know, hey, we blew it. And we need to help to fix this. We can't afford a failed state, but I don't see how we save Iraq from being a failed state. And this happened in Afghanistan. I think what we see playing out here is the law of unintended consequences.
In other words, you told me that we would cut and run, right, in Iraq?
I can't see it being any worse than it is right now, being any worse than what's going to happen right now in 6 months. They say our army is on the verge of collapse. Troops have been there on extended duty, 14 months, some of these people. There are no good choices left. I mean, cut and run, you know, what is it, lie and die? Is that the alternative? Stay what course? There's no coherent strategy there. if there was a strategy, you know, it's not apparent to anybody.
Get your news from the newspaper, the media, etc. I can tell you from personal experiences. I belong to the Marine Corps League. I was a Marine in World War II. I've talked to some of the people who were there last year. We had 100 of Lafayette area Acadiana Marines in Iraq. And they have a different story from what you tell me and what you experience from what you read in the news. If we leave Iraq, we establish a bona fide base for them to control all the Middle East. And God help us then. And if that was to be the case, tell me what the Democrats would do then.
Iran has more power than any other country in the Middle East. This is a direct result of our invasion of Iraq. What we succeeded in doing by taking down the Taliban in Afghanistan and then taking out Saddam Hussein in Iraq is removing the two prime enemies of Iran. So now Iran is free to move where they want. And now they have, through the simplistic view of elections that we have, that all you need to have democracy is an election, we have now established a Shiite majority as the primary political power in Iraq. Iranians are Shiites. Hezbollah are Shiites. Hezbollah was elected into the government of Lebanon. Hamas was elected into the government in Palestine. So this simplistic view of democracy that you just let people vote and somehow you got democracy, that's what got us the mess we have now. You can't impose democracy at the barrel of a gun. You know, we're sort of like the guy in "Oh Father, Where Art Thou?" You know, damn, we're in a hell of a mess, and I don't see a good choice any way you do it. Where are you going to get the troops to stay another 2 years? You know, are they going to send the National Guard again? Oh wait, I thought they were on the border. Oh wait, I thought they were responding to hurricanes. Where are you going to get the troops? We don't have an army to send anywhere. We can't respond to Iran because we're tied in Iraq. I mean, if you were an enemy of this country, you couldn't ask for a better scenario.
Well, in World War II, do you think that, he fought World War II, do you think that whenever they attacked Pearl Harbor, we shouldn't have retaliated? We should have let the Axis regime take over Western Europe and possibly, the rest of Asia?
No, we were attacked by Japan and we responded. You know, and Germany declared war on us. We responded.
That's staying in
Iraq did not attack us. There was no connection between Iraq.
9/11 was.
It was not. It was not Iraq. It was Osama bin Laden. It was Osama bin Laden, and he's still loose.
Man, you got a lot of smart people here tonight. I don't share all that intelligence, I'm sorry. But I'm not afraid of the Mexicans. I'm not afraid of the Iranians. I'm not afraid of the Chinese. But I want to tell Mike why I'm voting for him. I'm telling him tonight I'm voting for him. I'm afraid of two-term politicians. I'm scared to death of them. The reason we have drug problems and that deep deal on drugs, Billy Tozan, John Brook. Billy Tozan makes $2 million a year from Pfizer, Merck, and Bristol Myers because he was there too long. That's why we have that policy. The reason we got all the Mexicans in this country is because we have no government for the people, by the people. And I will vote for Mike Stagg this year, and I will vote against him in 2 years.
I have not heard any discussion about what I think is a terribly serious security matter, and that's our ports. What is it, less than 5% of the ships or whatever that come into the country are inspected? It is suggested that a great deal of the illegal immigrants arrive through those ships. Many of them are Chinese. You will notice that, at least 6, maybe 12 of our ports in this country are run by the Chinese, including the Bahamas location where they check for nuclear materials, run by the Chinese. What are you going to do to protect our ports?
Well, I think every piece of cargo that comes into the United States ought to be screened. And we could do that if we took just a fraction of the money that we're spending in Iraq every day. We could do radioactive screening of every cargo container that came into every port in the country, and it would give us a little semblance of a little better semblance of security than we have now. There's also technology available that could be screening for explosive liquids. We just had that scare of the people from England, and we had just eliminated the funding for that here in the United States. So again, it's about being serious about the task ahead of us, and I think that if we are going to be serious about our security, then we need to take the measures to do it.
And that was candidate for U.S. Congress from Louisiana's 7th District, Mike Stagg. For more information, you can check out his website at mikestagg.com. As always, you can log on to LafayetteDemocrats.org for more information, links, and show notes. Don't forget to click on that Meet the Democrats archive. You'll be able to see all of our show notes that we put together for each and every show, so you can see that we're not just spouting hot air. We're actually linking to all of the different news items that we're able to find, so you can see the information for yourself. And, regretfully, we are out of time. That has been another episode of Blue Mondays Meet the Democrats. I'm Stephen Handwerk. I want to thank you for tuning in to us. Tune in to us each and every Monday night at 9 o'clock on ASC Channel 15. With that, good night.